Well, here we go, golfers. This is the inaugural episode of 613 Golfer Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Botter, publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine, and I am crazy excited to be doing this podcast and to finally, after weeks and weeks of planning and preparation, getting the first one off the ground. But as with any new venture, we got to explain what it's all about. So before we get into what the podcast, this episode of the podcast, let's just explain, set the table, so to speak, for what the podcast is going to be all about. As the name suggests, 613 Golfer Podcast. It is all about golf in the 613 Eastern Ontario and the National Capital Region. Each episode, we're going to touch on a variety of different topics, including special events and tournament coverage, golf instruction with some of our PGA of Canada golf professionals from throughout the region, interviews with interesting people from the golf industry, course profiles, and a whole lot more. In a nutshell, if it happens in the 613, we're going to try to talk about it. All right, now that we've explained, let's get to making it happen. The golf season is right around the corner. And normally this time of year, we're all kind of getting ready in the golf industry. We're all kind of getting ready to set up our booths at the Eastern Ontario, Ottawa, Gatineau Golf Expo. And this year, obviously, COVID has had something to say about the Expo and how it's going to be run. But rather than cancel the Expo, the organizers have figured out a way to make it happen. And as they say, the show must go on. So our first guest on the 613 Golfer Podcast is a good friend of mine. He is the Regional Director of the National Golf Course Owners Association Ottawa Chapter. He is the show director and has been the show director for the last few years, and has to take on the daunting task of putting together a golf expo without having a venue to do so. So without further ado, let's bring on our first guest for our podcast, Greg Chambers. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. Just trying to make sure all my devices are off and not clicking.
It's a different way of doing things. The Zoom calls and everything, it's a little bit different, but at least we get to talk to each other, and we at least get to share some ideas and some thoughts. And you've got a big venture ongoing now with the Golf Expo. A little bit different than last year. Obviously, at this time last year, you were getting show preparations underway at the EY Center, and trucks coming in the back door, and booths set up, and carpet laid out, and so on. But this year it's going to be a little different. So first of all, let's tell our viewers, our listeners, a little bit about how the new concept for the Golf Expo came about.
Yeah, how we got to this point. And it's funny you mentioned about trucks and the movers and all that kind of stuff, is that I had help. There was other people that I could just send off their requirements, and they would build the show for me, and I just had to oversee it. So this year it's we've gone virtual, and what it is really just getting a feel of the temperature, I guess, in the province, of where we were going to be in a few months. And this is probably, we started talking, and once the golf courses opened up in May, so June, July, August, a few conversations here and there, and kind of a plan A, plan B, C, D, all the way down. And it quickly, every couple of weeks, we kind of got rid of plan A, kind of got rid of plan B. And we got to the point where we said, okay, we need to make a decision. And I think we want to try the virtual. So with the EY Center and the Ottawa Golf Expo, we canceled that. The live show, we weren't going to have vaccines. We weren't going to have the confidence of the exhibitors or the actual consumers, being in a large area with a lot of people. So then we kind of transitioned into the Toronto show, which we don't own, but we work with. We have a lot of our members, NGCUA members, that are part of that show, and they decided to cancel as well. So we thought, you know what, let's jump into this platform. I think we can handle it. I think we can do a good job of it. And then it was the vision of what we wanted to see. We did this last year, actually, is that our show closed on the Saturday afternoon. And literally at the end of the show, Friday was completely different than Saturday. Is that the big talk on Saturday was all about COVID, and people weren't hugging and handshaking anymore. It was a lot of, the wave or the elbow bump. And it was really weird to see the difference between the 2 days. And then literally the next day, COVID, it was all through the media. And Monday we had to shut down our Quebec shows. And what that is they had to transition into a virtual show literally with, 3 days before the show. And what they did was really, was great that they did this. They just had a list of golf courses and different deals. Our vision was, we wanted it to be as realistic as possible. We wanted it to be a golf show. I know there's only so much we can do with a computer screen and a mouse, but we really wanted to have a floor plan that you could walk through. We wanted different events going on. We wanted deals from the golf course. There's contests. We really wanted to get that feeling of, I may hop on at lunchtime. I may hop on, at work if the boss is okay with that, or later at night after the kids are in bed. But I want to go 2 or 3 times. And we want to have some different stuff going on. So that's really was our vision, and we'll see how it works out. But we've got lots of great feedback, and the one thing I have to mention is that it's a lot of education. Is that we knew the golf course owners would buy into this, because we got some feedback ahead of time. But really, it's a lot of education on what we're doing and how it's going to work, and a lot of Zoom meetings like this,
Exactly.
and walkthroughs. So it's who knows what we're going to do in the future, but it's I think we're going to have a pretty good event coming March 8th and 14th through the
Well,
14th.
it sounds really exciting. So why don't we dive into it just a little bit deeper? Now that we have an idea of the concept and how the concept evolved to where we are now, and so close to showtime opening. I've seen things from the back end, so I know how it looks, and what you're going for. And we've had numerous talks. I mean, in fact, we talked about this visual or virtual golf expo concept years and years ago, at one of the brainstorming sessions for the golf expo. And of course, if you can do it in person, we all appreciate being in our booth, being on the show floor, seeing people come up. I mean, we were always handing out magazines. It was always a thing. I mean, we were an exhibitor at the golf expo back when it was at the Aberdeen Pavilion in the Cattle Castle, I guess they called it. And passing out thousands of magazines to people and talking and just seeing that buzz and that energy. This year being a lot different, how are you going to be able to bring that energy, so to speak, to a virtual golf expo? What kinds of things are people going to see when they come to the website? What are they going to be able to do that's interactive to kind of bring them in and bring them back?
Well, there's lots, so this could be a long answer, so cut me off anytime.
No problem.
Again, going back to the first, is that we really wanted it to be as realistic as possible. And I didn't think, I always use the term sexy enough, and I don't know if that's the right term, but we didn't think just a list of golf courses on a page that you could scroll through and click to their websites was going to be sexy enough or entertaining enough for people. You may hop on there and go through it for half an hour or so and then jump off. We wanted people to come back, because now there's no driving, there's no travel, there's no attendance fee, there's no registration. Really, there was no hurdles to get through to get to the show. So we wanted people to come back 2 or 3 or 4 times. So that's where the content or the kind of the excitement, things to do with the show were there. So number one is we have a floor plan. So you're going to go to our main website, which is ontariogolfexpo.ca. There's different contests going on. You can sign up for those. There's no charge for anything to get to the show. You're just literally jumping into the floor plan, and you'll see a bunch of different activities that are going on right now, kind of leading up or teasing up to the show. Once you're on the floor plan, it's just like walking into the EY Center or the Toronto Golf Show. You're going into the building and you're walking around and exploring. And what it is that each exhibitor has their own booth. So they're buying a booth, different sizes, different shapes. They're building it, we're building it for them. And then you're kind of jumping into it and you're getting information about that course. Each course is going to have some deals. So you can buy different packages, memberships, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the courses we're finding out is doing contests. So that's a big thing too, is that they want to engage the customers. They want to get them doing stuff. They want to get them, on their newsletter list. So it's great to see the interaction from where it started, where it just give us a couple photos, a logo, and a video. Now they're actually interacting. They want to get that, virtual handshake or conversation with the customer. So that's great. It's really great to see the buy-in from the owners and operators of all the local Ontario courses. Now, saying that, we have destinations. We have Visit Myrtle Beach, Penn, Ohio Golf Trail. I think they each have 50 or 60 golf courses in their portfolios. Virginia Tourism, We have Dominican Republic, Mexico. We have down east courses. We have BC courses. So a lot of the destinations for when we can travel, later this year or next year. Online shopping, we talked about that, is that each course has their deals that they're going to promote at the show specials or show offers. On top of that, we have online shopping. So we have Canadian Pro Shop Online, which I believe is number 2 in Canada in online sales. We have the Golf Vault, and we have shopclublink.ca. I can never say that. So we have 3 online retailers too, just like you would see at a real golf show. You'd have the retailers selling clothing, hard goods, and all that kind of stuff. We also have our silent auction. So golf courses have donated some green fees. So we have over 100 plus twosomes, 100 plus auction in the auction with items and different vacations as well. We talked about the Mexico Dominican, is that they've donated trips for you can actually bid on. PGA seminar stage, that's another big thing near and dear to my heart kind of thing, is promoting local PGA. And what that is we're releasing every day, we're releasing different content. So you come back Monday and see a whole set of teachers and what they're doing, and then come back Tuesday and see a different group, just like a seminar stage you would see at a live golf show. We're working with Flagstick and T-Talk podcast, and we're actually having interviews. We're dropping interviews every day, different ones. So you're going to come back and see a different interview that Scott has done through T-Talk. Contest, probably the one that we weren't sure about the most. But again, in brainstorming, no bad ideas, or there's no such thing as a bad idea, I guess.
Not at all.
And we were throwing around different stuff, and we were laughing about, how are you going to do a long drive contest? Well, sure enough, we have some golf courses that are running long drive contests. We have a long drive and close to the hole through Southern Pines, Elmira Golf Course in Kingsville. They've partnered together, and they've put $4,500 gift certificates in the pot for these contests. Canadian Pro Shop Online is doing contests throughout the show and before the show. You're going to see them coming out in the next couple of days, and they have over $2,000 of gift certificates. We have the Golf Vault, which is doing a package from Cobra, full set, everything in your bag, value of $4,500. They're at the show. Royal Ashburn's doing a $1,500 set of irons. And then every golf course, I talked about that, in their booth, they're doing deals, but they're also doing a lot of database growing. So they actually have different contests, whether it's a foursome in cards or whether it's, a new driver, stuff like that. So it's really, again, it's virtual. And I've got my head wrapped around that. It's just, we really wanted it to be as realistic as possible. Right down to when you looked, and you've seen it before, you look at the floor plan, and it's a computer screen. I'm sorry, we can't get you to the show and walk through the booths. But we want you to visually say, okay, I'm going to visit this part of the show. I'm going to walk up to the top and visit these booths and stuff like that. We wanted it to be where you visit many times throughout the week. And it's a 7-day show, where our regular live show would only be 2 days. So we're giving everybody a little more time to get through it.
It sounds amazing. Now, just further to that, for our listeners anyway, our viewers, in the past, it's the Ottawa Gatineau Golf Expo. It would be at the EY Center. But this year, because of the fact that there's no Toronto show, there's no Ottawa show in person, this is expanded beyond just for our listeners anyway, the 613 golfer area. This is a province-wide show. So they're going to see not only the golf courses and so on from this region, they're also going to see whatever offers are available to them beyond just Ottawa, Gatineau area, National Capital area. They're going to see the whole province.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where the excitement's come from, is we've kind of gotten rid of a few barriers and hurdles, whether it's exhibitors coming to the show that maybe didn't want to travel up this far, maybe their budget wasn't there, or they just didn't have the time to travel around Ontario and do all the shows, or even outside Ontario. And same thing with the consumers, is that maybe you lived far out in the west, in the Ottawa Valley. Some of the courses that you would attend or go to were going to be at the EY Center, but it was just too far of a drive, an hour and a half, 2-hour drive to get to the EY Center. Now there's no barriers. You can hop online from anywhere. And what it is, we've taken that theme and expanded it. So with the Ottawa Gatineau and then the Toronto show, both not operating this year, the 3 Quebec shows that we own in Quebec are doing one show themselves. So they've kind of made the umbrella the Quebec Golf Expo. So we decided to do the Ontario show because we didn't have those barriers. Anybody from the tip of Northern Ontario right down to Southwestern Ontario could hop online and check out their courses. So you can see when you get into the floor plan, when you get to the show, is that there is actually different areas. We built it so there's an Eastern Ontario area, Central Ontario and Southwestern, as well as a destination. And what that is that the 613 area code that people are going to hop on right away into Eastern Ontario. They're going to check out all the local courses, local deals, what we have to offer. What we want is eventually, as the week goes on, or you're coming back for different content, is that you start to explore the other courses. And we know that people travel. We get the feedback from our golf courses that a lot of people will come up to Ottawa, stay the weekend, and play 3 different courses. So same thing is that we travel as well, and we play different golf courses in different parts of the province. So there's definitely different packages. There's a lot of stay and play packages. The golf course owners were busy last year, but they know, again, this year they're going to be busy, but people aren't going to be traveling outside the province. So they're putting their best foot forward, to be honest, and they're looking for our Eastern Ontario golfers that are going to travel, or vice versa, the golfers down in other parts of Ontario. And that's with our advertising and how we've kind of promoted it, is that we're trying to hit all parts of Ontario. Before, the Ottawa show would just advertise to Ottawa area consumers. We're literally hitting every consumer in Ontario. We're hoping every golfer in Ontario gets the notice about this.
Oh, it sounds amazing, Greg. So before I let you go, just remind everybody again how they get to the show, what the show dates are, and so everybody can jump on board and check it out.
For sure. We're definitely on all the social media platforms. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, definitely follow us on there. You can get all the details. But really, the home base is OntarioGolfExpo.ca. And that gets you all the information you're going to need for the show and how to get onto the floor plan where the meat and potatoes of the show is. And again, it's March 8th to 14th. So we're opening up at 12 a.m. on March on the Monday. You can hop in there and then you get access to the floor plan. But again, you can check it out now. There's some contests you can enter in advance, some information about who's going to be at the show and what's going on at the show.
Sounds awesome, Greg. Thanks again for coming on the inaugural 613 Golfer podcast and being our first guest and filling everybody in on what's going to be happening with this new Ontario Golf Virtual Expo. Looking forward to it. It should be a very exciting week.
Thanks again, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Hey, not a problem. That was Greg Chambers, Regional Director of the National Golf Course Owners Association and Show Director for the Ontario Virtual Golf Expo. Thanks again, Greg, for coming on and being part of the show. It's very exciting to see how things have progressed with the plans for the Virtual Golf Expo. I myself was a little skeptical at first because I'm old school when it comes to the Golf Expo. I was around in 1996 for my very first show where I had a 5x10 booth, at the back, and I had a Flagstick Golf magazine flag attached to the top of a ball retriever. And, I remember, going through all the shows, it was really about the people coming up and saying hi and picking up a copy of the magazine and talking to you about the magazine and showing their support and you telling them everything that's going on. It was just that interaction. And I know that that's the same for a lot of the exhibitors, and particularly the golf courses that exhibit at the show. It's an opportunity to showcase your facility, talk to people, extend some offers. But I think that what Greg and the NGCOA have done is they've taken the situation the way it is and said, the Golf Expo still needs to happen. And the only way we can do this is virtually. And if the only way we can do it is virtually, then let's make sure that the experience that people have when they come to the website or come to the show is as good as it can possibly be, without them having to be able to walk in the front doors of a building. And yeah, no parking, no drive time. They can visit the show over and over and over and over again. And trust me, I've seen the floor plan. There is a ton of stuff for everybody to be able to do. So much like what we've done with the magazine and gone from a print product to a digital product, we've had to add enhancements to the digital product to make it more enjoyable for people who are reading it online to have a decent experience. And that meant adding video, that meant adding photo galleries, that meant adding multiple links to different websites, whether it's ours or whether another one, just giving the magazine more of an interactive feel to it. And that's what the Virtual Golf Expo is going to be all about, offering an interactive feel to something that is interactive in itself when you go there and see people face to face. So good for them. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be an amazing week, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. So moving along, one of the things that Flagstick Golf Magazine for 25 years has been very known for, especially around this region, the 613 region, is our equipment reviews, whether it's Product Watch that we have feature in every single issue, but primarily since 1999, we've been doing an equipment guide. And that equipment guide has a ton of product in it, always has. We've adapted, changed it over the years, but it's a guide to whatever the latest and greatest is, some unique things that maybe you haven't had an opportunity to see. And we've been doing that since 99. So I actually have a copy of the 1999 edition of Flagstick, the 99 equipment guide. In 2006, we changed from the equipment guide style to hot picks. And this was our first edition of hot picks. And we've been doing hot picks in the first major edition of Flagstick every year since. So, and this year's no exception. Digital, yes, because last year, if you remember, we did have a print product because there was a golf show, and we produced a magazine. This year, Hot Picks is a digital publication, and it's going to be a little bit different, but we're really excited about what you're going to be able to see. And the man responsible for Hot Picks every year has always gone down to the PGA Merchandise Show in Orlando and talked to some golf manufacturing people and gotten the tests in at the Orange County Convention Center on the range and really gotten a feel for what the products are all about. This year, that didn't happen. Everything was done virtually. And that's okay, because a lot of this stuff is not the way it used to be at the PGA show, where everything was revealed at the PGA show. Those days are gone. Things are revealed earlier, so we know what's happening, and Scott's aware of what's happening. But Scott Mccloud, the associate publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine, has been the man responsible for producing or putting together all of these products in hot picks every single year, and being the inaugural podcast, 613 Golfer podcast, Scott has graciously agreed to come on and talk a little about the Hot Picks 2020 edition with us. Scott, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being a part of it, and it's great to see you.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
Well, I'm getting through it. Pretty excited about everything that's going on. Greg Chambers was on just earlier, and we talked about the Golf Expo, the Virtual Golf Expo. And I've been talking a little bit about equipment guides and hot picks, and how that has been a mainstay with Flagstick for the last 25 years. I say, albeit the first one didn't have that many products in it, but in 1999, was the first real edition of Flagstick that had the equipment guide in it. And we I explained how we go a little bit over the top sometimes with the equipment guide back in those days, where we tried to jam as many equipment options and products into it as possible, upwards of 150 or more products. And I can remember the 30 to 50 words per product, the picture. And back in the day when we were bringing cases of brochures up from the PGA show,
slides, back in the day when we had to do slides.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been 25 years, and we're still going strong, and we're getting ready to produce, our digital edition coming out April 15th. And of course, the digital edition, the first real full edition of the magazine for the year, will feature hot picks. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about hot picks this year and what they can expect to see?
Yeah, it's a little bit different this year. Usually we collect a lot of information at the PGA Merchandise Show, which of course was virtual this year, held annually down at in Orlando, Florida. It's a great opportunity that week to go and test a lot of products. And unfortunately, it's sometimes a little bit overwhelming during those weeks as well, because you are trying to test everything during that week. So in place of that, we've actually started testing products last fall, believe it or not. I would say some of the products that are included in the guide this year, the first one's probably hit last September, so it's been a while. Yeah, really working on it, and I think equipment is always an exciting thing for listeners, for readers, for consumers. All the golfers obviously love to get new equipment in their hands. It represents hope more than anything. I think I always say that you don't buy golf equipment, you buy hope, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's part of what we love about the game. You and I are exactly the same. I mean, you get new equipment, you try it out. There's always the potential that you're gonna play better with it. Doesn't matter what you do as far as fitting and things like that, obviously more important. How you swing it, more important. But we know that the engineers and designers work hard every year to make products better, and I think people will see that again this year. People first off should understand they don't have to go out and buy all the latest equipment right away. It's not necessarily going to make a huge difference. If you bought the driver last year versus this year, you're not going to see a huge gains in that type of things. But I think for most people, they've got a reasonable product cycle now, and they also understand golf equipment now is an investment. It's not necessarily cheap. So I think what people will see overall, we'll see an emphasis again on fitting. We'll see an emphasis on a couple different categories. Always seem to be exciting every year. Drivers, and I'll get into that in more detail as we talk here. Drivers seem to be a big category this year. We're seeing some innovations in things like customization. A lot of companies now are offering customized options for their drivers, for example, wedges. We're seeing more and more of that, which if people are going to invest in a product and they're going to have it in their bag for 3 or 4 years, they want it to reflect their personality. So I think that's a nice option for the manufacturers as well.
That's awesome. Now, are we going to see, Scott, obviously simulators is a big thing now.
Yes, very much.
Launch monitors have been a big thing. We see it everywhere now. And you're starting to see more and more. I mean, I know more and more companies are coming up with,
Consumer level
the personal
Yeah.
launch monitors. Now, we're going to see more of that this year. And are we going to feature some of that in Hot Picks?
Yeah, we'll have a few of those in there. There are some products that are in the pipeline that unfortunately were delayed. There was some promises of them coming out at the PGA show, but one, for an example, from Full Swing Golf, it is delayed a little bit as far as it coming out. But we saw last year the Mevo Plus, which is about 2,000 US. SkyTrack has been a consistent product for a few years now. It wouldn't be in this hot picks, but it's out there as well. Again, something around the $2,000 range. Heading all the way up to obviously TrackMan and Foresight GC Quad, sort of the top of the market, but they're not really for consumers. They have a few too many parameters for most people. They're a little bit more elaborate. They're really for commercial settings, golf pros, fitting centers. But I think you're right. What's happening now is that, especially given the pandemic and a lot of people wanting to create their own practice centers indoors, we're seeing them setting up more nets, more mats, just other indoor setups, including simulators. So like you mentioned, we're seeing lower priced models coming out that do have golf simulator capabilities. Now, it's still not going to be super cheap to put something together, but for some people it's a reasonable investment, given the fact that they might be at home and they're looking for more entertainment at home, and they love golf, so they want to invest in that for entertainment with themselves and their family.
That's awesome. Now, obviously, we don't want to give away the farm here. Hot Picks is a big deal to us. It's a big deal to you. It takes an awful lot of work, but I'm sure that the listeners of this podcast and the viewers of this podcast would love to maybe get a little sampling of what they might see in this 2021 Hot Picks edition.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is a real focus again. We talked about drivers, a little bit more of an explanation of why some of the new drivers might be interesting for golfers. I would say right now that there's very few poor products on the market in the in the high end driver range. But what you'll find is that there's a lot of options even within each company about suitability as far as fit is concerned. So you see more emphasis on that fitting, which is something we have emphasized for quite some time. I think you're going to see a few more GPS laser rangefinders. Obviously, the US, I'm sorry, not the USGA, the PGA of America is actually going to be allowing the use of rangefinders in their championships. But we're also seeing price points come down in that technology as well. Certainly, you can go high up in ranges of products, but I think people will find that there's some lower priced options, especially in items like rangefinders, which more and more golfers basically don't even think about not having in their bag. So that's something people can look for sure.
Awesome. Now, any specific product that excites you, Scott, this year? Or I know we can't be too specific. Well, we can be specific, but we can't. There's lots of products out there. We got a lot of friends in the industry. But is there anything that you've seen that kind of like, oh, that's something that I think people are going to want to see?
Yeah, I think in that aspect, I think it's not so much of a bias anymore, because even naming a product is one thing, but understanding that there are a lot of models. So within a company, I'll use a couple of examples. So let's use Titleist and their TSI drivers. They have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 as far as different models and how they fit different players. I would say one of the things that we're going to say that I'm excited about, maybe let's say iron category. Irons are really strong this year, and I'll hesitate again to name a specific one, but I would say that you're going to see some stuff from some not usual brands. So brands like Zrixon, for an example, which for a lot of people it wasn't a mainstream set of irons or golf clubs for them. They didn't really take that as a mainstream. They always think of the TaylorMade's, Titleist, Pings, and all sorts of things like that. But we're seeing brands like that coming forward and increasing in popularity. Brands like Mizuno have made some strong products. Their new driver is basically it's an evolution of a 3-year sort of cycle for them, where they've kind of pushed forward. And I think Ping has done that same thing as well with their G425 line in their driver. It's an evolution of the 400 and the 410, and takes some of the best characteristics of those two products and then jumps into it. And then the other one too, the Sim 2, the driver from TaylorMade, really interesting construction process. I mean, they did a lot of work with the shape last year in the original Sim, the Shape in Motion, but they totally created a different way that they structure their golf club now, with this forged aluminum ring around the backside, and their fairway wood that they have there is an absolute monster. So there's some really cool stuff, and I mean, really, frankly, it's a great time to be a golfer. It really is. There's almost too many choices, really.
Exactly. Okay, so we talked a little bit about hot picks. Now, before I let you go, I just wanted to kind of get into setting up some of our future discussions and what they might entail. Obviously, you're out there. Joe's out there. Joe McLean.
Yep.
For those that don't know Joe McLean is Scott's right-hand man out in the
Flagstick Joe,
the editorial booth. Yeah, he's at Flagstick Joe. What types of things out in the on the golf courses, out in the scene, are we gonna see this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a return to a little bit more play. Last year at the start of the year, we didn't see obviously tournaments happening right away, but we're going to see more provincial tournaments this year, so we'll be able to provide some more coverage on that in person. I've been told that there's going to be some allowances for media, for an example, at Golf Ontario events, so we'll be working hard to try to get out and cover some more events that way. The other stuff is just there's just a lot of interesting stories that we've been unearthing over the winter time, and be it the fact that we've got the 100-year sort of evolution of competitive golf in the Ottawa region since 1921, when the first, district golf association was formed as far as part of Golf Quebec. Joe's working on a big anniversary story for that. We've got some neat other stories, even about golf courses too, that are doing some things differently, especially given the times the way they are and things that are happening, trying to be more diversified and adding a lot of different services. So you'll see that angle in a few stories this year at a number of different clubs where golf courses are really taking on different revenue streams than just the traditional golf stuff, which I think is important overall. And of course, the Flagstick Open is obviously gaining traction. Getting emails from all over the place. Get golfers coming down from Northern Ontario, and again, that tournament scene. People are eager to play golf tournaments again, more than ever, and I think that's going to be an interesting aspect, that competitive golf as well.
Awesome. Now, of course, people are going to see, this year being the 25th anniversary of Flagstick Golf Magazine, people are going to see within the editorials, within the pages of the digital magazine, they're going to see a little bit of that pullback to some of our roots, some of our history. Not going to do this, look back at all 25 years, because that would just literally take forever, and nobody would sit in front of their computer and read that digital edition. But we are going to kind of dive back into some of those historic moments and bring people from 1996 forward to 2021 to see, where we started and what's happened along the way that's kind of significant.
Yeah, it's touching on those little nuggets of information that's, sometimes people sort of forget about, and they're significant as far as the golf scene is concerned. And sometimes we forget that, golfers that are prominent now, were an amateur or a junior back then, and we're winning particular tournaments, different things happening at a club level, just different anniversaries, people that shaped golf in the region. And it's always good to reflect on that and to see kind of where we came from. And we're fortunate, as you've mentioned, we've been around for a quarter century, so we've seen a fair bit of what's happened in golf in the region. And I think it's good for us to have a little bit of a refresher and to go back and remember some of those moments, because we forget them as well, and we also forget when they actually happen sometimes.
No question about that.
Yeah, I mean, thousands and thousands of stories later, you sort of sometimes forget that there was a certain occurrence or a certain player came through. And I mean, Joe and I were talking about the other day, we started chatting about players that had won LPGA events or PGA Tour events and things that came from this region. And we ended up discovering a player that we had written about in 2000 that won an LPGA event back in the 60s that we sort of forgot about. So those are part of the reflections that you'll see in upcoming this year in the pages of Flagstick in the digital version, and also on flagstick.com.
Cool. Well, it is why we do what we do, right? So all right, Scott, well, thanks, bud, for coming on and being a part of the inaugural podcast, and good luck with the rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you very soon.
I'm sure we will be. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to many future appearances.
That was Scott Mccloud, the associate publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine, and my very good friend. Like I said before, Scott's been with me working on this magazine since 1996, so for all 25 years. And oddly, we've still been friends after 25 years, and not without our share of disagreements along the way, but that's to be expected. Now, Scott alluded to the fact one of the things that going on this year once again is the Flagstick Open, and I wanted to just touch on that a little bit in this episode, because it is coming up. The Flagstick Open is one of the premier amateur golf events, and it's become one of the premier amateur golf events in the province. The field is extremely strong. It is a flighted or division split tournament. There's 4 divisions, A, B, C, and D. And last year, the tournament for the first time sold out. And we had a waiting list of somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 people to participate. Now, there's a number of reasons why the tournament is as popular as it is. One of the reasons is pat ourselves on the back a little bit, but it's how it's run. It's what's involved. It's very professionally run, right down to the official starter on the first tee announcing the players, the custom tee markers, the flags, the pin sheets, the scoring areas, the fact that we have 4 level 4 rules officials on the golf course helping move people along and keep them honest, if you will. But all our golfers are honest, but if they have questions, there's answers for them out there by people who know those answers. The registration gift has always been exceptional, and that is mainly due to our partnership with TaylorMade Canada and Adidas Golf Canada, who have helped provide, as our sponsors, our main sponsor, help provide us with the items that make people want to come back. It's an exceptional registration gift. It's exceptional prize table. It's hosted by Equinell Golf Club in Kemptville, and Equinell, if anybody knows, is one of the premier golf courses in the region, if not in the province. Exceptional conditions. Chris Follett does an amazing job, and his whole crew, they're doing an amazing job making sure that golf course is pristine all season, but specifically for that event. Now, this year, we are back to our original May date, 22nd, 23rd, Saturday and Sunday. It's a 2-day event. We're back to the original date. We've done some modifications to the tees this year to kind of make it a little bit more challenging for those in sea flight, so that we don't have C's and D's playing way up off the forward tees. We bring the C's back. We have sort of a hybrid setup for them this year, and I think that'll bring the level of competition within the C flight a little tighter. And obviously, our A and B flight could be just an A flight, really. I mean, the way that flight is divided up, we have players participating in it are +4, +5 handicaps or indexes. It's just a very strong field every year, and we're really excited to get it going in this year. It's right now we're at about 75 to 80% capacity, and we're 1st of March the 2nd, we're at 75 to 80% capacity, which is exceptional. We're expecting to have hopefully a field of around 140 this year. Last year we were at 120. If we have a waiting list, we have a waiting list. I hope we don't, because I'd like to make sure that everybody gets in. But unfortunately, with a tournament like this, everybody wants in, so that makes it a lot more difficult to fit everybody in. Well, I'd like to thank Greg Chambers and Scott Mccloud for being our first guests on this show. Next week, we hope to have more great interviews revolving around golf in the 613, maybe a little bit of early season golf instruction. Who knows what other surprises might come up. So thanks again to our guests, Scott and Greg. Thanks to our listeners. I want to remind you to visit flagstick.com. You'll be able to watch this podcast, listen to this podcast. You'll be able to check out any great stuff that we might have on flagstick.com. I want to encourage you to subscribe to the audio version of this podcast at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And remember, when you watch us on YouTube, to subscribe, click like, and make sure you get every episode by clicking the little notification bell, and you'll make sure that you'll get every single episode. So thanks again for spending some time with me on 613 Golfer Podcast. We will talk soon, and always remember, go for the stick.